can't blame migrants for taking advantage of the situation that exists in this country. It's not their fault. Why wouldn't they take advantage? They come from countries and cultures that are endemic with corruption and nepotism and no one doing as they're told, so they don't know any better, so they come here and we allow them to pervert the systems in this country. We allow them to jump the queues. We allow them to be criminals and nothing happens to them. We allow all this ourselves. We can't keep blaming foreign people for our problems, because there are problems and we've allowed them to happen, and we allow these problems to keep on going. We're responsible for this because this is our home, our country, and we elect the politicians who run it. We need to take some responsibility and start voting in better politicians who will start fixing some of our problems. The NHS has become a slaving company. The NHS goes around the world stealing medical staff from around the world. This is a form of modern slavery now, and the NHS is the pinnacle of modern slavery. We go to different countries, we steal their trained nurses and doctors, we leave those countries poorer, we take their best and we drag them all to the UK with promises of more money. It's an horrendous organisation. It damages the third world. It provides a very poor service, the NHS. NHS is an extremely racist organisation, which shocked me a couple of years ago when I found out. I had a friend working there and most of his complaints was about racism, internal racism. And I said to him, that's not true. He went, no, let me finish, Nick. 99 of all cases of racism within the NHS does not involve a white British person. It's different cultures, different religions, different people from different countries all having a go at each other. It's like the United Nations. They all hate each other. He said racism by white British people in the NHS is almost zero. It's everybody else fighting between themselves. Yeah. Our welfare system is killing us. Not only is it bankrupting us, but it's destroyed the family. It's destroyed aspiration, self-worth, self-respect. It's slowly destroying all of us, and we're becoming slaves to the state because the state looks after us now, and it's not the right way to go. I want a welfare state that's a hand up, so when you fall on hard times, you don't hit rock bottom and end up on a street corner living in a cardboard box because the state steps in and saves you from crashing all the way down. But then that should be a temporary measure, and the state then should be giving you a hand up. It should be helping you improve your own life. It shouldn't be improving your life for you, it should be helping you to improve your life.
Hello there everyone, welcome to the World of Momos podcast, and on today's episode of Reflections and Reactions we have a returning guest with us. We have Nick Buckley, and today we're going to talk to Nick Buckley about his campaign for the elections on the 4th of July, and he's standing as independent within Manchester, so we'll ask where he's standing from and so on, and also why is he standing as an independent and other things. Our recent episode or previous episode, if you want to watch it, I'll put in the links in the description. Also, I'll put it over here. It'll come up over here right now, and you can go and watch that episode as well. So, hi there, Nick. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you for the invite to come back on.
No, it's brilliant. I love talking with you last time as well, both about when you were standing up as Manchester's mayor, but also more so about the myths as memories and stuff, which people should also go and watch that episode. I love talking about that. Before we get into anything, last time what I did was I introduced you. And I figured out that doesn't really give the flavor of who the person is unless they tell it themselves who they are. So I'll just give us a brief sort of life story of you, and then how you ended up now standing as an independent candidate within this election race.
Sure. So my start in life was nothing special. Poor kid on a council estate in South Manchester, surrounded by crime, surrounded by dysfunctionality. Went to a failing school. My school got closed down the year after I left. I was in school one day when my music teacher got stabbed 42 times in the chest. That's how bad my school was. I had no father in my life, no positive male role models. I drifted through my teens and my 20s. I was living a lie. I told people I was a businessman. I had my own company, which technically I did. But anyone can set a company up, and it takes 2 minutes online. You pay £16, that's it. I was earning no money. I was living a lie. And then when I turned about 30, I realised my life was going nowhere, and realised I needed to make changes. And I came to that conclusion by travelling around the world and seeing other people and going to different countries and meeting different people, and me saying to myself, they're happier than me. They've got a better life than me, but yet I'm so much richer than they are. But they're happier than me. And I had to put all that into context and realise I was letting myself down. And I call it personal responsibility, and that's what I had to accept. So I got a job, ended up working at Manchester Council, fell into a career that I excelled at, and that was stopping young people getting involved in crime. Got promoted. I ran Manchester City Centre in terms of reducing crime and antisocial behaviour, which was a big job. Then was made redundant when austerity kicked in 2011. Took my money on the table and set up a charity to work on the streets for kids to stop them getting involved in crime, obviously. That became a multi-award winning charity. I was awarded an MBE, which is on my wall somewhere behind me. You probably can't see it now. And then that's sort of my normal life. And then my life changed 4 years ago this month. It might have been a couple of days ago, 4 years ago. Black Lives Matter had a protest in London. George Floyd had just died. And there was a peaceful protest in London that injured 27 police officers. And I wrote a blog about it, about Black Lives Matter, that they're not who you think they are. They're Marxist. They're probably criminals. That's not the way we need to go in this country. We need to unite. We need to come together. And that was perceived as being racist and a Nazi. The charity I founded sacked me overnight with an email. I decided I wasn't having that. So I fought back, made the whole board resign. I took control of the charity, got my job back, and that politicised me. And I remember then thinking, if they can do it to me with my track record, they can do it to anybody. If they can destroy my life, who spent his entire life trying to improve other people's lives, they can do it to anybody. So I then stood for Mayor of Greater Manchester 3-4 years ago. And then it came round again last month, and I worked on it for a year this time. Last time I had 8 weeks. This time I worked on it for like 14, 15 months. And I came third. I beat Reform UK. I beat the Lib Dems. I beat the Greens. And I came third with just over 50,000 votes, which for an independent with no money and no campaign and no experience was a fantastic achievement. And then I looked at the result of that and I was disappointed. I wanted to come second. I knew at that point I wasn't going to beat Andy Byrne and the Labour Party in Greater Manchester, but I thought I can still beat the Tories. But I didn't. And then I thought that was going to be my fight. That was it. I was going to basically retire after running for mayor. But as I was campaigning, more and more people spoke to me and said to me, you're not going to give up, are you, Nick, if you lose? Because let's be honest, we don't think you're going to beat Andy Burnham, but you've said something to me. You've stoked a fire in me. You're the only person I can hear who's saying the things I agree with. And you're honest and you're straight to the point, and there's no fancy language and there's no ambiguity in what you're saying. And you tell people the answer knowing they're not going to vote for you because of that answer, but you tell it to the face anyway. And I put lots of people off voting for me because they'd ask me a question and I tell them the answer straight away. And they'd go, well, thank you for that, but I'm not voting for you. I said, well, that's absolutely great. But at least I was honest with you. At least you're not making a mistake now voting for me. So I decided I've got to stand again. This isn't over. I've got to keep standing until I get into a position of power, and then I can start changing something in the country. So at the moment, I'm running in a general election, and I'm standing in Oldham, East and Saddleworth, which is in Oldham, which is North Manchester. And we will see how I do.
So Why did you decide to stand as an independent?
Independent at this moment in time is the only way I can go. Who
Hmm.
else am I going to stand for? I can't stand for any of the main parties because they're all as bad as each other. They are
Hmm.
the problem. Um, I've looked at some of the smaller parties, but they don't align with what I want.
Hmm.
And then Reform UK, I stood for Reform UK 3-4 years ago when they were brand new. But they're not turning into what I want them to be either. So that's why I
Hmm.
decided I wasn't standing for them again. I need to be true to myself.
Hmm.
And even if it means I'm never elected into power, that's fine. But
Yeah.
what I'm not prepared to do is become the type of politician I'm complaining about now.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is a politician who just cares about being elected. He just cares about having a high position in that party. He just cares about not upsetting the party bosses. That's what's got us into this trouble. That's why the country's failing. I I discuss and talk about what I know is right. I may not be right, but
Hmm.
I think I am based on my life experience and what I've done working in communities. So how then can I promote a policy I think's wrong or I don't agree with? But that's what you've got to do if you're a career politician. And
Hmm.
I'm not prepared to sell my soul to the devil.
No, no, that's admirable. Um, what do you think are your chances in this coming election?
In the election now in Oldham, East and Saddleworth, I don't think I'm going to win
Hmm.
because it's a snap election. When I decided I was going to run, I thought the election was going to be November,
Hmm.
October, November.
Hmm.
And that would have given me 5 months planning, 5 months of recruiting volunteers, doing all the groundwork I need to do. And within a couple of days of me deciding where I was going to stand, a snap election was called 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just not enough time.
Hmm.
So the only consolation is, well, I'm actually running a very, very poor campaign.
Hmm.
It's a shambles. But the only consolation is everybody else is running a poor campaign and
Yeah.
everybody else is shambles as well. Um, there's a small chance I could fluke it and I could win because the seat I'm standing in is a little bit unique. So it's a Labour seat at the moment, but
Hmm.
the majority is only 1,400, which is not a lot.
Hmm.
The Tories came second last time and they've now collapsed. So all
Hmm.
those votes are up for grabs.
Yeah.
George Galloway
Hmm.
and his Workers' Party has announced a candidate for my seat as well.
Hmm.
So his candidate is going to be taking a big chunk of Labour votes. We don't know how many.
Yeah.
Um, and Reform UK are standing as well. So they're going to take half of the Conservative votes.
Yeah.
So, and in this seat for the mayor election, I got 5,000 votes in that area.
Hmm.
So I'd like to think those 5,000 votes are still coming my way at this
Yeah.
election. So it's a little bit up in the air. It'll be a
Hmm.
long shot if I win, but there's a possibility because we don't know how all the other parties are going to line up against each other once they start stealing each other's votes.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. What? So, what do you think generally is going to be the result like of the elections? What are your sort of predictions?
I think we're going to get a Labour victory.
Hmm.
How big the victory is, I don't know. Excuse me, coughing. I'm going to be coughing all the way through this. I'm just getting over the flu.
That's all right. Don't worry.
Um,
I'll edit that out.
yeah. um, they're definitely going to win.
Hmm.
I, I I don't know how big the majority is going to be. We just don't know. Um, Tories are going to be decimated, and rightly so.
Hmm.
I don't want a Labour government, but
Yeah.
we need to punish the people in power. It's the
Hmm.
only way people learn. So
Yeah.
we've got to punish the Tories. And if that means a Labour government, it means a Labour government, but we've got to punish the Tories. Otherwise, no one will learn a lesson out of what's been happening for the last 14 years.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what I think. Yeah. So we don't know how Reform are going to do nationally. I'd like them to get some seats.
Yeah.
Not in the area I'm running in. I'd like them to get no votes whatsoever where I.
Yeah.
But nationally, I'd like them to get some seats because they are saying lots and lots of things I like. Some things
Mm.
I'm not too keen on. But when you look at every other party,
Mm.
Reform are head and shoulders above everybody else.
Mm.
They're not perfect, but they're so much better than anybody else out there.
Yeah.
We don't know how the Muslim bloc vote is
Mm.
going to affect the Labour victory.
Mm.
I'm hearing things off people who know more than me are saying the Muslim vote is coming back to Labour in droves
Mm.
because Labour have had meetings with them all, the
A lot of
mosques, the
appeasing, a
leaders,
lot of groveling, haven't they?
yeah, and basically promised them the world, as in we're
Yeah.
going to be in power next month. We can give you stuff. If you keep us out, you're getting nothing.
Mm.
But keep. So I believe they've been doing that. So we'll see how that goes. And there's always a risk that Tories won't do as badly as we think. They're going to lose, but they may not do as badly as we think. Because
Yeah.
when it comes to voting day and you're in that polling booth by yourself with your pencil and you're thinking to yourself, who do I want? Who
Yeah.
do I want? Tribalism takes over.
Yeah.
Historic voting takes over, and not wanting Labour takes over. So we
Mm.
don't know. It's all up. It's still
But
up in the air.
sometimes name recognition takes over as well.
Of course, it
So
does. Yeah.
like, because Reform has a lot of paper candidates, and that's where they're having the trouble,
Hmm.
because people don't know who they are, right? So when you're in that polling booth and you see the name Nick Buckley and you heard of Nick Buckley, then hopefully that will trigger something in them, and then they start voting for it, like, voting for you in that way. I mean, I'm hoping for a hung parliament. I'm hoping nobody gets their way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so even when Labour comes into power, they have to form coalition with other lefty parties, and because there's so much fraction over there, they will never get anything of serious note through. So that would probably be the best result. Tories are not going to get the majority at all, obviously, um, because they have themselves to blame. They've just been doing things in the shadows what they deny in the light. And I was talking to about this with Paul Golding as well of Britain First. I was saying the same thing. They have some of these candidates out there which are anti-woke, and they say the anti-woke stuff, but all the wokeness has come under their
Yeah.
government, by their government as well. So they just put these parrots out there, and while they so people are seeing this. People know that there isn't going to be any change with Tories. It's just managed decline, as you have said before as well.
It
Uh,
is. Let me tell you one thing. I disagree with you there.
mm, mm.
I think a hung parliament is the worst thing we can have.
Oh,
Because
is it?
what I think is going to happen with a hung parliament is Labour will be able to blame everybody else about why nothing can be done, about
That's a
why
good point.
socialism isn't working, about how we could have built a utopia in the last 5 years, but we didn't have enough votes and everyone destroyed it. So that is why
That's
I want
something
them
that I didn't consider
I want them
before.
to have a majority, so
Yeah.
they make everything worse, and
Mm,
the UK can see socialism doesn't work, and
mm,
then that will unite the right, and then we can vote them out. We don't need to be giving Labour excuse about why they couldn't create a utopia.
yeah, that's a good point. I didn't consider that before, because what I was hoping that it'd be a hung parliament so they don't get their way, but it's still. Yeah, it would still mean in 2029 they can ride on that ticket and
Yeah,
then come out on majority with even a worse influence. So the
yeah,
best thing is that we have, you know, that we decline really quickly
yeah.
for a short period of
We
time.
need to hit rock bottom as quick as we can, because
Yeah,
until we hit rock bottom, nothing will change.
yeah. That's something actually Paul Golding also said. Like he wants that to happen, so it kicks people off their
Mm,
backside,
yeah.
and they actually activate and actually do something about it. Um, what do you think, like in the future going forward, about SDP in the north? Are there someone who can seriously replace most of the labor sentimentalities in the people in the north or in Scotland and like those places which traditionally do tend to vote a bit on the left.
Mm,
Can they actually replace that, because they are a really good party which have social conservative views that focus on family, nation, and
mm.
community, things that we actually need, focuses on the British people, on the local people. What do you think are is the reason people don't vote for them is because they're not aware of it, or is there something they don't agree with them?
Good question. I like the SDP. They're not my party.
Mm,
The too left wing for me. But
mm,
everybody I've ever met who's part of the SDP has been a fantastic, very respectable, decent person. I think they're a
mm,
great party. I like some of the policies, but other policies I disagree with. Um, they're basically what the Labour Party used to be and used to
mm,
represent. And I say to people all the time, I met a candidate yesterday in Manchester City Centre who's standing for Manchester Central.
mm,
And I went on social media yesterday to recommend him to everybody that I know.
yeah.
If you're old-fashioned Labour
Mm,
and you're looking for a decent party to vote for, not the Labour Party we've got now who are lunatics, you should
mm,
be voting SDP.
yeah.
What SDP are missing is a big injection of money. If
Yeah.
they could attract a multi-billionaire to
Mm,
support them, to get the advertising, to get the traction, I'm
mm,
sure they would do well. I would like to see them replace the Labour Party. I really
mm.
would, but that's a big ask, and that
Because they
that's a
have that decency about them, don't they? Like,
they do.
and that love for the country as well. And obviously, like, I am a member of SDP, even though I disagree with a lot of policies.
Mhm.
But as a non-politician, I cannot be independent in that way,
Mm,
because I'm not standing for a seat, so I have to sort of, take the rough with it. Um, the nationalization of a lot of services and stuff is
mm,
something that I don't necessarily agree with, because I think the services are still going to be really bad because they're still going to be run by the same people.
mm.
It's actually like finding out different things, but they do have like decent people. It would be a lot better for them to replace the Labor, because at
Yeah,
least you'll have a party on the left that loves their country and they just have a different point of view. And what
exactly.
happens then is like you argue with a different point of view to find the best solution, so that you are not trapped in your own bubble as well, that you are challenged in a like good mannered way, like in a good faith way. So that's why I think like they are important because of that reason, so they keep the right honest as well.
No, absolutely. We need a good left as well as we need
Mm,
a good right,
mm,
because together they're yin and yang. They balance each other out. They make
mm,
sure one side doesn't go too far. They hold the other side to account. So even though I want a stronger right,
mm,
that means I need a stronger left as well. Otherwise, we have the tyranny of
mm,
the successful parties. And at the moment, with Labour and Conservatives, they're the same party.
mm,
They want the same things. Hence why everything's getting worse, because there's no critique of what
yeah.
they want, because they all want the same thing. I would love to see the SDP grow,
Mm,
get bigger, but for that, they're going to need investment of money. So if you're a
yeah.
left wing billionaire out there, please
Mm,
check out the SDP and then
yeah.
see if you can support them.
Most definitely. And when you see the parties on the right, um we have like obviously Tories are not on the right, but the parties that we have on the right, with some significant sort of name recognition at least, I see three of them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like if you think someone else is more of a contender, I see three of them in the Reform Party itself, just because of Farage and its name recognition. Although I don't think they really have um, their policies laid out properly.
Mm.
I just feel like he just comes up with these sound bites and we'll figure it out later. And that aspect I don't really like about Reform. Then there's UKIP party, which seems like they are in a resurgency mode. They are revamping themselves. They're sort of, figuring out who they are themselves and going back to the basics. And also, I see Britain First, who are looking to do that, focusing on the local elections going forward more. So, like, really paying attention on your on the grassroots.
Mm.
What do you think? Is there any other party, or is something in 2029 will see one of these parties become really strong if they continue their, their grassroots?
At the moment, it looks like it will only be Reform
Hmm.
that will come out of this election. Basically, the winners on the right, I think. UKIP are struggling and have done since the referendum now to find its purpose.
Hmm.
UKIP would be better closing down and setting up again under a different name.
Yeah.
UKIP brings the baggage of the referendum and leaving Europe. So because of that baggage, you will never get 50% of the population to vote for you because they voted to remain. So that's what was clever about Reform UK. They changed the name from Brexit Party, close that down, and next day set up as Reform UK.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be done there. There can only be really one challenge to the right in these parties, and at the moment it's Reform. And the reason why it's Reform is because it's been funded by a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Richard Tice has kept it going because he's a multimillionaire. So
Yeah.
he's kept the party going and funded stuff, and that's why it's grown to where it is now. It's grown to such an extent that Nigel Farage then looked at it and went, I need to get back. I'm missing out on this. Hence why he's come back. So I think it's only Reform UK who are going to challenge the Tories.
And because we don't have PR system, I mean, it doesn't work like in Europe that other parties can grab votes and then they can, form a coalition and stuff. It doesn't work like that. We need one sort of party. And as highly critical I am of Reform, and as much as I favor other probably parties on the right, because I think they're actually they have the right sense, or at least willingness on the political will on issue of immigration. Because I see Reform Party doesn't have the right political will on the immigration. They will only go as far, but we need to go a lot more further than what our own sensibilities would allow us, because it needs to happen. It's just we have so many bad faith actors in this country that we need to start deporting a lot of the population and stop immigration completely from certain countries and certain cultures, so they don't mean us well. And which is why I would have liked UKIP to have grown something, but they do, like you said, they are in the shadow of Farage because of that name recognition. And because of that history, maybe it's all the other parties of the right, if they combine, and then perhaps sort of force Reform to combine with them and then force them on that issue of their issues and try to convince him on that. That would be the best sort of push on the right. But I do also have I don't know what do you think? I have a feeling that Farage would rather form coalition with Tory party and become the Tory party leader than have a coalition with smaller other right-wing parties.
No, absolutely. This is about taking power. So you don't take power by having a coalition with the micro parties. And instead of being at 18%, you're now at 18.5%. That doesn't get you anywhere. What's going to happen is Tories are going to be decimated. Reform hopefully will do well. Then there'll be a conversation about who's left in the Tory party. Let's say they go down to 100 seats or 200 seats, whatever. Who's left in that party? Is it all one Tory nation people? Is it all the woke Tories? Or are there majority of the conservative Tories there? And that then will dictate how Nigel Farage Reform move forward. If they are true Tories, then it makes sense for Reform and the Tories to actually work together and merge, and Reform UK to be merged into the Tory party. If it turns out that the Tory party is still full of wets and socialists, then Reform UK's job will be to continue to destroy the Tory party and take over that position. So there's two ways that could go. But I do think in the long term, Tories and Reform will merge under the Tory brand.
Yeah, I mean, because that just seems the most likely thing to happen, and for name recognition, that is going to happen. The only, I know a lot of people on the right, and myself included, would have wanted some other party to come up and take over, the right side of politics. But it just seems like the way that we are set, and the way that no other bigger party actually wants to consider proportional representation because of this reason, because it takes away their power. Labor would never want that, no matter how much they say sometimes, oh yeah, we'll think about PR. Without with PR, Labor would not be what they are anymore. So they would want to keep away from that as much as possible. I know I wanted to talk to you about like what you think the three major problems are in our country that we're facing, but this for me was one of the major problems anyways, of not knowing who the right actually are, because there is no balance then. And that this is what the main problem that I see in British politics is. It's all towards the left, the Tories and the Labour and whoever else, our media, our institutions, and everyone. And I'm pretty sure everyone feels this, and everyone says this in the pubs as well. Like, it does feel like that that you're made to feel that a political side, a politically left side, is the right side to be on. Right, and I don't like that. Let's say, even if I'm on politically left, right, I'm politically left leaning, let's say, I wouldn't think I am right in like the absolute sense, and then the other side is completely evil, because who am I conversing with? And who, like, I can't keep myself honest, then I won't be having any conversations, and I would just be dictating my ideas, which the left is doing. So I do see this as a problem, and however we come to it, I would want a proper right to come up.
Exactly, because like I said before, it's yin and yang. Each side keeps each other side in check and makes sure they don't go too far, and highlights their problems, highlights where they're misunderstood, shows the public where they're failing. That's what's good in a democracy. We need both sides being strong. Otherwise, we get dictatorship. Otherwise, we get bad policies. That's what's happened to the country in the last 14 years. As in, there's been no opposition. They've all wanted the same things. Except I want it louder, you want it quieter, you want it blue, I want it red. But they all want the same things. Now, what are the problems do I think in the UK? I don't think the political parties necessarily, they are the problem, but I don't think the general public see them as the problem. Because what the general public want is a better life. And they don't care who delivers it, as long as they deliver a better life for them and their children. I think our three main issues, number one is immigration. This election isn't an immigration election. The next election will be an immigration election. We're talking about it now. Things have changed. We couldn't talk about immigration 5 years ago, but everyone talks about it now. But the next election will be fought on immigration. The green agenda, not because we all hate the world, we want it poisoned and we want dirty air, but the green agenda is a big problem because we can't afford it, and it's based on lies. Our cost of living crisis is a green agenda crisis. Our energy production is going up because of the green energy. All our bills, 10, 20, 30% of our electricity and gas bills are green energy subsidies. Prices in shops are going up because of energy prices. It's all connected to this all the time. Our farmers can't make a living because of energy, and because you can't use certain fertilizers and you can't use your tractors. All these are huge problems, and it's all under the cover of we're just trying to save the planet. And the answer is no, you're not. You're trying to take us back to the Stone Age because you hate humanity and you hate technology, and you want us living in caves. And we need to say no to that. So the green agenda is a huge problem based on lies. based on lies and misinformation. And our third problem is the woke agenda, which has infiltrated all our organisations. You know, Keir Starmer doesn't know what a woman is. David Lammy thinks you can grow a womb. And they're just silly things. But, you know, we've got to a stage now where we don't recruit people on merit anymore now. We recruit people, especially the public services, we recruit them on sex, gender, religion, ethnicity, sexuality. That's why nothing works. Because all our public services are run by incompetent people because they only got the job because it ticks a box.
And you know, this annoys competent people a lot who are there on merit, because we have to do their job, right? So we have to do their job while they're trying and they're failing at their jobs.
Yeah.
You know, so there's more pressure on people like myself who are there on merit, who have to, you know, but they're constantly told as well, like what we're constantly told as well how bad of people we are because we don't want to put bloody pronouns on our bios or go along with that work. We have investigations done on us, and this is within a Tory government that is happening. So I can only imagine what's going to happen within a Labour government. You know, it's just becoming impossible. The only way that you can survive, which this is what really infuriates me, right? The only way that you can survive these days in a workplace is if you just keep shut and keep your head down, right? And every instinct in me is like, but why? Why should I? Why are you making me feel like a bad person for saying that a man is a man and a woman is a woman? Basic things. Why are you making me feel bad for saying the family is the most important cornerstone of our civilization? This is how we work. Now it doesn't matter. I'm not denigrating people who haven't had good families. But if you haven't had good families, like yourself, right? Like you haven't grown up with a father, right? You should want that for the future generation then, because you have missed that out. Why am I a bad person for, promoting for that? Like for feelings of people who have failed in life? I'm sorry. I don't want to cater to the sensibilities of people who are actually not good for the society.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. Do you think people who've only got one leg have it harder in life?
Of course.
Of course they do. Do you think, therefore, that we should try to make sure that everybody has two legs?
That's the thing, yeah.
But that doesn't mean you're victimizing people with one legs. That means you've realized, acknowledged having two legs is better for the individual. So therefore, we need to promote people to have two legs. Doesn't mean you're having a go and you want to terminate people with one leg. And that's part of this industry now of grievance, that just because you're gay or you're trans or you're black or you're Muslim or you're Asian, then there's certain things we know in our culture that do better than certain things. Having a father in the home is one of the best predictors of you being a successful citizen. Having books in the home, there's some stat out there. If you've got more than 100 books in your home growing up as a child, you're more likely to be successful. And there's all these predictors, and that's what we need to be concentrating on. But what we've done is we've been doing this for all my life. We've been saying to people, whatever you do is just as valuable, is just as equal. You know, you weren't born in this country. You're an immigrant into this country. And we say to people like you, the culture of where you come from is just as good as the culture here.
Well, why would I have come here then?
That's the answer. If other cultures were just as good as us, people wouldn't be leaving those countries, would they? No, they wouldn't. I'm not saying our culture's perfect. We have many flaws that we need to fix. But telling people that their poor choices, their poor outlook on life is as equal as anybody else's is wrong. We know it's wrong and it's damaging them.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously they don't even consider that not all immigrants are the same, right? So someone who's a chancer who's coming over here on a boat, right, with who might or might not have good intentions, but I think so if you're coming over here and as a criminal by breaking the law, you probably don't have good intentions towards the country.
Yeah,
it's not the same as someone who comes here legally
Mm.
and who might not want or probably should not want those illegals coming over here, because it, why would I, why would I want to ruin the country that I'm immigrating to, right? And then we have the difference between the western immigrants and the non-western immigrants, right? So people who might be like my wife, who is coming from Poland, and or other people who might be coming from Italy, America, and stuff like that. Yes, we can say to them, your culture is good as well. It's not bad, and you coming over here as a resident, work over here for a while, experience the culture, and then go back. That's something that Europeans have done, all across history, across time, because of the similarity in religion, actually, more like, and then by extension, that the religion that built that culture. So there are similarities. You know what to expect no matter which country in Europe you go to. There will be certain etiquettes that you follow which are very similar to and very understandable to everyone, right? To assume that everyone is the same is just idiotic
Mm.
to me. And for other, like, I get so many messages like that. Oh, how you as an immigrant can be against immigration? I say, I don't even know how
Yeah.
to answer that, because I have a brain. I don't have to think a certain way just because I am of a certain color or I was born like in some other country.
Mm.
It's just nonsensical. But now you're right to say, now we can actually have these conversations. Now I don't have to bang my head that much on the wall, because there's enough people to have this honest conversation with. Like, immigration is very important. If you do not have borders, and if you do not control who comes and goes out of your country, then you do not have a country.
Mm.
It's as simple as that.
I think there's one layer I'd put on that, and that would be, we need to start asking the people, not just about
Mm.
immigration, but about many things. This is
Yeah.
our country. I was born
Mm.
here. I don't have another country to go to when this fails.
Yeah. Mm.
We need to be asked. We need to be asked, do we want mass immigration? The answer might be
Mm.
yes. I might be a minority, in which case, well, that's what the
Yeah.
country wants. But those questions are never asked. We never have those discussions. It's always done to us. And then
Yeah.
we have lies from people like the Tory party. We're going to cut this. We're going to cut this. Well,
Yeah.
they never do. But no one's ever
Mm.
asked us. There's never been a conversation about how much immigration do we want? Where should those people come from? What skills are we looking for?
Mm.
How do we get rid of people who are here that we don't want anymore? And
No matter if they're born over here as well.
yeah,
Doesn't
and we
matter.
don't have those
Yeah.
conversations, and that
Yeah.
the people need to be involved in this. I'm sick of politicians making these choices on our behalf, and that
Mm.
also goes with ending mass immigration. It's not
Mm.
down to them just to end it. We need to be
Yeah.
involved in these conversations. It's my country.
What do you think about referendums? Because this is something that I disagree with William Clouston on, because he's not a fan of too many referendums, but I am, right? So like the Polish have, right? So they have these referendums each election.
Mm.
So while they vote for their politicians, they would also have these certain questions. Do you want immigration from these countries? Do you want,
Yeah.
they would have these. That's sort of like a direct democracy,
Yeah.
like more involvement. Do you think we should be doing that? Because Australians have that as well, a lot of referendums. And because we've seen what referendums can do, right? We had a referendum on Brexit. The parliament could have chosen not to act on it because it's not really an official, mandate as such. But they can't go against it because that's the will of the people, and that worked. That's the only thing that worked, even though we haven't received the benefits of it. But that's not our fault. That's the fault of the people who didn't want it. Brexit,
Yeah.
having to govern over Brexit, right? But that worked. So I think so.
Yeah.
Referendums work in that sense.
There is a role for referendums in this country. I don't want loads. I don't want them every year. I don't want them on every subject.
Yeah.
But every now and again, there's a topic that turns up, like Brexit,
Yeah.
like abortion, like mass immigration. That every
Yeah.
now and again, a topic will turn up where all the parties have got a mixture of people who support it and don't support it, and there's no clear party to vote for to get what you want. In those situations, I think a referendum would be very handy to give the public what they want. Now, we also have to be careful about the will of the public, because what we don't want is the tyranny of the majority. So just because the majority of people say homosexuality should be illegal, well, that doesn't mean we should make it illegal. So it's a bit more complicated than we think it is, but for certain topics where it's very complicated within the political parties and there's no clear party that's shouting for it, I think once a decade, maybe we have one question per general election, something like that. I think I could be persuaded to support.
I mean, we could differentiate between the referendums of like not having referendums on our rights, but having referendums on the direction of the policies, rather, right? So not having a referendum of human rights and stuff like that, like, oh, should we allow gay people, like stuff like that, but rather have policies that whether we want mass immigration or not,
and that then will be wrapped in the flag of human rights. So we can't vote on that because immigrants have got human rights. We can't vote on this because their rights are good. If we start putting caveats on what we can and can't have as a referendum, that sort of negates the idea of having referendums.
Yeah, good point. But we do need to have some sort of involvement from the public, because we need a clear direction of, like, people need to know, because right now we just told, oh, it's a fringe of people, it's a bad people on the far right fringe that don't want immigrants, so we need to know this, that actually the majority of the people do not want it. And then we also have to make sure actually that if we are having referendums, who is voting in the referendum? Because what we don't want is currently, like, we have that some qualifying Commonwealth countries, people from some qualifying Commonwealth countries can vote in our general elections. I think so that's bizarre. That people from Ireland can vote in the general election. I think so that's very bizarre. We're not an empire anymore. We need to move on from that. There's a lot of countries within Commonwealth that are actively hostile against Britain, and that would rather see us be destroyed. So it's very important who votes over here. Probably people who are born over here should vote over here. Probably in that sort of referendums, even people like myself who are not born over here but who are immigrant to this country, are British, maybe we shouldn't be allowed to vote as well, because this is something that is to shape the nation, right? So people who are born over here should really have a say, rather than people who might have a conflicting interest.
I agree. I've come to this conclusion now the last couple of years. I would say in a general election, I wouldn't allow any Commonwealth members to vote. I would only allow British citizens who are born here to vote. And for people like yourself, I think you'd be a good voter. But my answer to you would be, you've not given enough to the country yet for you to be able to have a national say in what happens. Your children will, but you, at this moment, have not given enough to this country for you to be shaping the country. You're still part guest in this country, so therefore you don't get the vote. I think I'd be looking down those lines.
Yeah, and if I love the country, which I do, I would be in agreement with that, because just for my personal interest, I wouldn't want other bad faith actors to gain, to gain some benefit out of it.
And it also gives your children. It also gives your children the buy-in, and you're saying to your children, "I couldn't vote in this country, but you can. It's your country now. It was never my country because I came from there, but this is your country. You can vote here." And that's what we need to be doing to second, third generations of children of immigrants, because a lot of them still don't feel connected to this country, even though they're born here, because it's just so easy. They need to understand, I have the right to vote now. My parents didn't. I'm part of this country in this story now. That's
Yeah.
hopefully what that might instill as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I will get a lot of comments about people saying I'm like I hate my own and blah 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 stuff like that. Just silly comments. But people don't realize is like if you love a country, you have to think outside of yourself.
Yes.
My love for the country is not connected just to me. It's not just what benefits me. If that was the case, I would be in America. They have that mindset. This is an old nation. It has to work like an old nation. It's not a new made up country.
And that's what patriotism's about. It's about putting the country first, not yourself.
Sacrificing for the good of the country. And even in that same spirit, I don't know what you think, but I think that as well, that I like people who are not British citizens who are not born over here should not be allowed to stand in any elections for any office, local or national. And this is the reason why, because SDP has asked me before as well if I would like to stand. Other parties have also asked me, it has always been a question if I would like to stand or not. But I just don't feel comfortable. It's like, okay, I love the country. I don't have any place to go. But I'm resourceful enough to go elsewhere if the shit hits the fan, but I wouldn't want to. But still, I just feel like this is not the reason why I came here. I came here to lay down my roots for my future generations, and this is why I can't call myself English, even though I love England most in the whole of British Union. Because I wasn't born here. Like it would be lying, right? Like I can call myself British, but that's about it. But it's about my children. It's about the future. If I'm lucky enough to have kids, it's about they carrying on that legacy and they carrying on that connection with and laying the roots deeper and deeper.
Our whole electoral system needs looking at, and it needs changing over the discussion we've just had there. Who can vote? Who can stand in elections? Why certain people shouldn't be standing and shouldn't be voting? Because the rules we're running on at the moment are 100 years old, and the world's changed in 100 years. I mean, another good example is postal votes. Postal votes is being abused by so many people. The fraud in it is horrendous, and we all know it's happening, but yet we don't do anything about it. So postal votes needs looking at.
Yeah, and it's like we need to have like these discussion. These are uncomfortable discussions for a lot of people. Maybe I make it more comfortable when I'm talking to someone who has who might have the opposite views, because I don't take it personally. But also, I think that people need to understand what the idea of service is as well. Because just because I can't stand in the elections, it's not an offense to take. There are other ways to serve my country. Right?
Yes.
There are other ways that I can work in the background and stuff, which I actually prefer doing anyways. But you know what I mean? Like it's you have to prove your loyalty to the country as well. It's not a given. You don't just get given that. But
exactly.
We need to have uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, so if you're working in Tesco's on the checkout, does that mean you have a vote on the board? No. It's just like you're working in Tesco's. So, it comes with responsibility and privilege come hand in hand. And we have to make choices sometimes. Who do we want to give the responsibility to?
Yeah. And it's just like the Romans had that as well, didn't they? Like you had to serve in the army for like whatever amount of years before you actually got their citizenship.
That's a good caveat to what I just said before. Maybe people, British citizens who weren't born in the country, do get the right to vote in elections if they've served in the armed forces.
Yeah, or whatever equivalent to that would be like a national service or whatever form that might be. We could create something like that shows that you have sacrificed and you have helped, or like first responders or whatever it might be. Yeah. So, moving on from that, or actually discussing one point of it, one of the problems that we have, the main issue that we will have in 2029, the issue of immigration, right? What do you think is the main issue of the immigration? Because the obvious thing is obviously the illegal migrants. That has to stop. That's just silly. I don't understand. I don't even understand it, right? That shouldn't even be a topic. But beyond that, when it comes to legal migration, because people focus so much on illegal migration, they don't understand the legal migration is the highest migration. What is, how do we go about it?
Well, to be fair, most of it's fairly simple. So, we could stop the boats coming overnight if we wanted to, but we haven't got the backbone to do it. But maybe a new party in 2029 could do it. And then looking at legal migration, every single one of them gets a visa.
Yeah.
So stop giving visas out. We couldn't do it overnight, but we would say to the business world, here's our plan for the next 3 years. In 3 years' time, our immigration will be virtually zero. You've been given 3 years' notice. You need to start changing. Stop relying on cheap foreign labour. And that would give them some time to start investing and doing whatever they need to do. And then we stop giving visas out. And at the same time we stop giving visas out, we start with the low-level jobs, first of all, no visas for them. That starts increasing the wages businesses have to offer to get people to do those jobs. We then start pushing more and more people off benefits into those low-level jobs. And then we start creating the economy we want instead of relying on cheap foreign labour. Because every time we recruit someone to come here with cheap foreign labour means we're putting a British citizen on benefits and we're paying for them to stay on benefits. It's not sustainable.
And then those people also bring their whole family afterwards as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
we need to pull out of some of the international conventions, such as the European Convention on Human Rights. We need to pull out of the Refugee Convention, asylum seekers. We say no to all of them. We just say no more. We're letting nobody else in over the next 3 years. And once we get down to almost zero, then we need to spend the money we're saving. We need to spend it on integration. That's what we need to spend on. We need to look at every foreign national who's got a criminal record and they get deported overnight. We then need to look at any foreign national who is dependent on welfare. They get deported overnight. And we need to start being tough because this is bankrupting us.
Yeah. And the family visas issue and stuff, I've never agreed with it, because you've been here, like, if I've been here 14 years and then or even less, like, because people do it even less, they've been here a year, they're still a student on student visa, and they bring their parents over who are then treated on NHS. Like, I just don't get, like, hang on, what's going on over here? It's so unfair. And this is I think so the reason why it ticks me off so much, because it's so against the British nature of fairness, right? Because it is unfair. That is the inherent problem over there, because these things are unfair. I've been here for 14 years and I've worked my ass off, right? And we finally managed to buy a home. We have this some hope of starting a family or whatever. We've never taken any benefits. We worked our way, right? And then comes some illegal immigrant and they get everything from the government. They don't even respect the country, right? They make the area like really bad around them. They don't take care of it. They hate the British values and they are trying to subvert British values. A lot of them, they gang up with these Islamists and stuff, people who are coming from Islamist countries and stuff. So again, trying to make this country a lot worse, right? But they're getting all the benefits of it. But if I can't afford my mortgage payments, I'm on my I'm out, like, on the street then. It's so unfair.
You can't blame migrants for taking advantage of the situation that exists in this country. It's not their fault. Why wouldn't they take advantage? They come from countries and cultures that have that are endemic with corruption and
Yeah.
nepotism and no one
Mm,
doing as they're told. So they don't know any better. So they come here
mm,
and we allow them. We allow
mm,
them to pervert the systems in this country. We allow them to jump the queues. We allow them to be criminals and nothing happens to them. We allow all this ourselves. We can't keep blaming foreign people for our problems because there are problems and we've allowed them to happen and we allow
mm.
these problems to keep on going. We're responsible for this because this is our home, our country, and we elect the politicians who run it. We need
Mm.
to take some responsibility and start voting in better politicians who will start fixing some of our problems.
Yeah. I mean that is right. Like that's where the frustration comes from, because if these subversive Marxist type people who have infiltrated so many organizations, if it weren't for them, it won't happen, right? If it weren't for the native population who is actually allowing this to happen, it wouldn't happen. They wouldn't come over here. It's just we need to stop allowing them
Yes.
to do this, and like you said, like with legal migration as well, like with visas and stuff, there are ways that they have found as well, where they're allowing it to happen within the health and social services, where they have these visa schemes, these legal
Mm,
visa schemes, and they're getting people in from countries which have diametrically opposed cultures,
mm,
like from Africa and from Asia and from all those places, right? Because they're not giving cultural significance to their visa processes, because they have this concept of the global
mm,
majority and all that crap that comes with it, like all the wokeness. So it's important when we look at legal migration that all of those factors are actually nipped in the bud. Like you can't just create these visa schemes.
It's worse than that. If you go onto Google and type in Google, what am I entitled to if I emigrate to the UK? You will find a Home Office page on the Home Office website that tells you everything you're entitled to. Dentist, hospitals, doctors, how much money you'll get a week, free mobile phone, how many of your family can come over in a year's time. That's part of the problem. The pure incompetence of our system, of our
Mm,
politicians, that we're advertising to people across the world what you get when you come here. And we wonder why half the world are trying to get here because we keep advertising it to them.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? 'Cause I remember when I came to England, um, there were these people who were like these Pakistanis and stuff. They were telling me, oh, how you can pretend to be gay
Yep.
and get nationality. You can get your visa thing processed within 6 months, and then you can get a citizenship. And obviously, I would think like, why would I want to do that? Oh, then you can get benefits and stuff. It's like, why would I want to live that life? Like,
Because that's a life they lived in Pakistan. Corruption.
exactly. And I was with them for 9 years, and it took me a while to understand, because this is why I got away from that place, because I couldn't agree with that
Hmm?
mentality. And I was like, well, I will try the legal way of doing it. And if England doesn't want me, then tough.
Hmm?
Like I'll have to find some other
Hmm?
place. Like it is what it is. But I would prefer to be here because I love the country, right? Why would I want to? Yeah, but you're right. You're right to say, because even though I've seen this in my life, even though I've lived in those countries with those people, and the reason why I got out of those countries, because it's not part of my
Hmm?
mentality. It's just it doesn't really get into my head. And then when I think a liberal Westerner would be even more detached from that kind of
Hmm?
mentality, and that they're that unable to think that people would take advantage of people would do these things. That's why you get these Gary Lineker types who are like, who think all the immigrants coming over here are just, oh, poor innocent
Yeah.
people, like yeah.
Yeah. But let me just
Yeah.
add something on there. That's human nature. There's
Mm,
there's white British people in this country who abuse the
mm,
systems, who have got no
yeah.
intentions of working, who
Yeah.
break the law and rip off the welfare system. So
Mm,
it's cultural, and you can
mm,
develop culture over time. So the immigrants have that culture where they come from, come here, and
mm,
come from corrupt countries, and it's all about tribalism and get what you can get. But we have the same thing here in certain sections of the community where I've got no intentions of working. I'm going to stay on benefits all my life. But these are negative cultures that we need to help people overcome. But we're not doing that because we say to people, your culture is valuable as my culture. And the answer is, no, it's not.
Yeah, not all cultures are
No, they're
equal. I'm
not.
sorry, but not. And for me, like, there's no culture that even comes close to British culture. So I don't care what people say about it. If they want to cry about it, they can keep on crying about it. But that's how I see it. But do you think a lot of the problems of immigration, as well as other problems, can be fixed if we reform a lot of the systems that we currently have, the social care systems, the benefit systems, and basically, if we reform the welfare state to stop being too much of a welfare state, does that resolve a lot of the problems, even the social ills that we have, even the non-dependency on families, that we should actually be dependent on families that we have, because the state is there to take care of you, so you can have kids with whomever, and then break up because the social care will take care of you.
Yeah, our welfare system is killing us. Not only is it bankrupting us, but it's destroyed the family. It's destroyed aspiration, self-worth, self-respect. It's slowly destroying all of us, and we're becoming slaves to the state because the state looks after us now. And it's not the right way to go. I want a welfare state that's a hand up. So when you fall on hard times, you don't hit rock bottom and end up on a street corner living in a cardboard box because the state steps in and saves you from crashing all the way down. But then that should be a temporary measure, and the state then should be giving you a hand up. It should be helping you improve your own life. It shouldn't be improving your life for you. It should be helping you to improve your life. But it's become a lifestyle choice. It's become a choice now where I'm going to stay on benefits. I'm going to play the system. I'm going to get everything I can out of it. And every year in every election, we create new ways of abusing the system. That's why we have an increase in kids with ADHD and autism and learning difficulties. It's not because suddenly we're getting more ADHD and autism. It's because we put in new policies that said if your kids got ADHD, you get an extra £100 a week. And you wonder why parents are trying to get their kids diagnosed with ADHD, £100 a week. And all these policies are killing us. And you said about dependency. It's also making us dump our old people on the state to look after. Who are the state to look after my parents and grandparents? That's my responsibility, my family's responsibility. That's not the state's. Why are we why are we giving money to the state to look after our parents, who then employ unemployed people basically on minimum wage to come and look after the people I'm supposed to love? It's horrendous. We treat our old people now like garbage, and we allow the council to come along like refuge collectors and do stuff for them. And a lot of the people who work in the care sector don't care. A lot of the immigrants who come and do the work don't care. They're doing it because it's a job.
Yeah. Recently this happened, which really ticked me off. Someone I know, whom I can't name, her husband had a very, very serious illness, and he was in the hospital and stuff. She said, like, the whole ward seemed like some third world country. It didn't seem like England, because and mind you that she's not English born herself, right? She said, but she's European. She said, like, it just felt like you were in Africa, first of all. She said all the nurses were more interested in, just going around, oh, hello brother, hello sister, and finding out what is happening with them, than caring for the staff over there, right? And it's not like I'm like, it's just it wasn't an English atmosphere. and people weren't really concerned about their job, because why would they? Because they would be only doing it as a job, right? Because it gets them the visa, the nursing
Yeah.
visa and stuff. That's why they're here. They don't really care about the nursing profession itself. They probably have like a lot of them might have dodgy qualifications. Who knows?
A
Or
lot
the
of them have,
qualifications.
especially from
Yeah,
Nigeria and Africa. Yeah.
yeah. And even if you imagine like they have the right they don't have the dodgy qualifications, they've done it, but their standards are not going to be the same as our standards. So it's going to be substandard.
Of course it is. If
He
you've got a
was not
British person
supposed
in this
to.
country who's raised and grows up wanting to be a nurse all their
Yeah,
life, they'll
that's way
probably make a
different.
good nurse because that's what they want to do. If
Yeah,
you're living in a hut in Nigeria, saying to yourself,
yeah,
I just want to get to the UK to get a decent job so I can help
yeah,
my family back in Nigeria, I'll become
yeah,
a nurse. That's not
yeah.
the same calling, is it?
No, no. And you know what happened was that he had like those trach tubes, right? And he wasn't supposed to be fed, and was written, "Do not feed
Yeah.
him." The nurse fed him because he said he was hungry
Mm.
and he wanted to eat something, but obviously he was in that state that he would forget,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
right? And he wasn't in the right state of mind. He died just a few days
No.
afterwards from that, right? Because it created an infection, obviously, because he was on the
Yeah.
tubes. And it's like, you know it's hard because I know the people. It just infuriates me. It's not the only case. There's so many cases that I hear about. It's because these people do not care. They don't care about the person. They don't care, especially if it's, and I don't care what people say, especially if it's a white person, they would care even less, right? And I have seen this with my
Mm.
own eyes, this happening. And that person died before his time,
Mm.
basically, just because of that neglect. And even if we see the economical side of it, obviously his widow is going to sue the hospital, as she should,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a huge medical negligence. That is going to cost the hospital,
Mm.
which is going to cost the taxpayer, right? And that person, that nurse, is still going to be there,
Yep.
right? And they might do more of those things. It's not just costing us culturally or economically. It doesn't make sense to do this. People don't understand. In the department of health and social care, it's not just a matter of
Mm.
numbers. You don't just say, oh, we have a gap of 10 people, we'll fit in whatever 10 people, and that's problem fixed.
Mm.
These professions are a lot to do with holistic and cultural as well. The bedside manners are different for each one. I remember
Mm.
myself going to a hospital where, when I was first diagnosed with sarcoma, with cancer, this GP just told me like, yeah, I have it. And no emotion, no nothing. He was an Indian doctor as well, and he just told me, oh yeah, you probably have cancer.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean probably? Like, yeah, you just go and get tested, and we'll see. And then, oh, if you have any questions, let me know. It's like, why would I want to talk to
Yeah.
you?
The NHS has become a slaving company. The NHS goes around the world stealing medical staff from around the world. This is a form of modern slavery now, and the NHS is the pinnacle of modern slavery. We go to different countries, we steal their trained nurses and doctors, we leave those countries poorer, we take their best, and we drag them all to the UK with promises of more money. It's an horrendous organisation. It damages the third world. It rips away parents and children away from their families. It provides a very poor service, the NHS. NHS is an extremely racist organisation, which shocked me a couple of years ago when I found out. I had a friend working there, and most of his complaints was about racism, internal racism. And I said to him, that's not true, but no, let me finish, Nick. 99 of all cases of racism within the NHS does not involve a white British person. It's different cultures, different religions, different people from different countries all having a go at each other. It's like the United Nations. They all hate each other. He said racism by white British people in the NHS is almost zero. It's everybody else fighting between themselves.
But towards them would not be reported as well. Towards the white British people, which there would be a lot of, that would never get reported though, because it won't be recognized.
I mean, most staff, over 50% of the staff in the NHS are not white British, including medical staff and other low-level staff. And we have between 5 and 7 million people unemployed or underemployed in the UK. We could solve this issue straight away, but no government's ever solved it because we won't train enough nurses. So we don't train enough nurses, and then 2 years later we have to recruit more foreign nurses. We could have trained them 2 years ago, but you wouldn't train enough nurses.
Yeah. I mean, just do whatever you have to, like make their fees, just clear off their fees. They don't have to pay any fees to become a nurse or whatever. If you have a gap, find ways to fill it, because paying for all of their, even like, their maintenance fees, just pay for it. They don't have to pay it back. That will still cost us less than having that, because I just want people to conjure this image of what we are actually doing. This old person in a care home, right, is over there alone, surrounded by people not of their culture, who don't even understand the banter or the language or the way of things that has been said. He or she has no one to talk to, and a person who is also only giving them a very cold contact care.
And that's the family's fault. The family shouldn't be doing this.
That person has been unpersoned as well. Like that, basically, that's what it is, because that person's personhood is taken away, because all that person is now is someone to take care of and waiting to die. This is what we're doing to people. And you're right to say it's the families who are doing it too, because like my family from my wife's side, who are Polish, they would never dream of doing that, because it's just unheard of for them. Like, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't just leave, babcha alone, like grandma alone, like, in care home. We will take care of her.
I mean, it's easily done when you think about, in this country, we murder 250,000 babies a year. So if we can do that evil, sticking our own people in home to die in misery, that's not that bad, considering what we're doing with the unborn.
Yeah. Do you think that's a very good point? And nobody raises that, by the way. Do you think as a nation, we really need to have a conversation about abortion?
We do, and it's coming. More and more people are talking about abortion online. There's more videos, there's more events, there's more podcasts doing it. We're going to be having a huge conversation in this country over the next 5-10 years. Huge conversation.
It's a very important conversation as well. A lot of it is linked with religion as well, and rightly so, because it's an ungodly thing to do to start off with. But even if you are an atheist or whatever, it's an immoral thing to do, to take a life before. Like, it is taking a life.
It's murder.
It's
state-sanctioned murder.
And people have been made to feel that it's okay to do that. So I've taken up a lot of your time, actually, because that's what happens when I start talking with you. So to round up our conversation, what are your hopes for is there hope? Is there hope for us, or should we be like Hitchens in a way and abandon ship and just go away, which I really don't agree with.
There's huge hope. There's change has been in the air now for several years, and it's gaining pace. We need Reform UK to do well, the Tories not to do well, and that might start the catalyst of change that we need. Things are changing. People are not as cowardly today as they were 2 years ago. People understand things more now than they did 2 years ago. Many people have still got their eyes closed and their ears closed, but over the next couple of years, they'll start waking up. The change now is unstoppable. We've seen it with the European elections. We'll see it in America when Trump gets re-elected. Big change is coming, and we just need to embrace it, and we just need to do our bit to make sure it comes as quick as it can come.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on. Always lovely to chat with you. And I hope you all the best for the coming elections. But more so, hope for the best for the future, because hopefully when the next time mayoral elections come along
Yeah.
in Manchester, you will be the mayor of Manchester, and you can bring about like a very, very positive change, because we need that positive change from local level before we need it from national level, I feel.
Yeah.
So the mayoral position within Manchester or within London, and all these places, important places of significance, we need that leadership who makes it comfortable for the rest of the country to converse about these topics.
No, I agree. And when I become mayor, I'll come back on your show.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening. I'll catch you next time.